Hey everybody, welcome to a new Teal Tinted Glasses podcast. It's me, it's Drew, it's Saturday night. There's hockey on, but you guys are here, so that's pretty awesome. I think everyone's flying a little higher than we were maybe a week ago. So obviously, we're going to talk about that. I think, I struggled when I made the talking points because it's really talking points. I slept all day and woke up and here I am. After being with the family, I got crap for not enough pictures of my kids on Instagram lately. So if you go on Instagram, you can see pictures of my beautiful children. I struggled because it's like, about like how to deal with like the Vegas series, right? Like, did we just go past it? Did we talk about it? Whatever. And I decided because like, really, that's what this show was kind of designed to do, right? It was designed to talk about stuff that wasn't necessarily in the game, right? Like, this was never supposed to be the Sharks played this person and the Sharks played this team and the Sharks played that team and this is what we think about all those games. Like, this was never supposed to be that podcast. So I decided that as much as I think really everyone needs to move on, we're going to touch on it anyway and completely break the internet, I hope.
Especially because it has implications outside of San Jose.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. So there's going to be a little chat about that. I know I'm going to try and I understand that there's a lot of very passionate feelings on how that series ended, and I'm going to try and do it as down the middle as possible, which I think is pretty on brand for me at this point. I'm pretty much that guy, right? Drew can do whatever the hell he wants.
I'm gonna be biased.
All right, no. Drew's gonna be biased, so you're gonna get your definite teal tint, and then you're gonna get my more trying to be more analytical about it, I guess. So here we are. I apologize, my voice is not 100% right now, but we're gonna do this. It's gonna be awesome. So let's get this started. With me today is Mr. Drew Weber. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing fantastic, Ian. It's good to be on.
It's good to be on. Are they going to add a video review for your penalty, sir?
I mean, I hope so, just so I get more attention. It's easier for me to tweet at teams when I have time to tweet at them for my penalty.
That's I never even thought about that.
And just a heads up to all, I'm sorry if you see me turning sideways like this. I have the Boston-Columbus game on in the corner, so keeping tabs on that for y'all.
We're fans. I mean, what can I say? This is why this show is great, is because we're fans, and I think that's the most important thing. So let's get down to business here. We'll touch on Game 7 here first, and then we'll move on to things that are a lot more recent. But I think there's a lot of stuff from Game 7 to decompress. What did you think of the call, Drew? Like, when you saw the end result, like, were you of the opinion that this is a call where the end result was worse than anything happened to that player? Or were you 100% on board with the 5-minute major?
I thought it was a bad call. And I know it's a very polarizing thing, but I'm with the Vegas fans on this one, where it's a horrible call, and it's a call that a referee should not make in a Game 7 in that crucial of a situation. It was clearly a cross-check to the chest. As horrible as the outcome is for Pavelski, it's a very scary scene, very gruesome.
Yeah, awful.
But, I mean, that wasn't Eakin. Eakin didn't do that. Stastny didn't even really do that. They're both playing the game, and it's just an unfortunate sequence of events that causes that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at too. I mean, like, obviously, I've said it on this show. I said it when I did my little quick playoff preview. I mean, right now, I care more, and on Teal Town USA last night in the post game, I care more right now about Joe Pavelski, the person, than I do even close to Joe Pavelski, the hockey player. Mm-hmm. Like, I just want Joe Pavelski to be okay. I don't want this to have long-term effects on, forget his career, on his life. Like, I want him to not, turn 40 and not have a good quality of life because his head bounced off the ice the way it did. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I mean, the play, it was routine. The end results are awful. I'm not going to deny the end results are awful. And I think, again, I feel terrible for Pavelski. Mm-hmm. But it looked like I mean, to me, it looked like the refs saw the blood and said, "Oh shit, we have to do something now."
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the part that I have the problem with. Look, I'm not gonna say that I'm not gonna say, like, you can think it was a bad call and also be of the opinion that it did not cost the Golden Knights the game.
Absolutely.
The Golden Knights costed themselves the game. You can go down a litany of things that they could have done. Most importantly, kill a penalty like they've been killing the Sharks power play. The Sharks power play was atrocious up to that point.
1 for 8 in game 2.
Right. Insane. I mean, and I think 1 for a million in the series at that point.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, look at, you could have just killed the penalty. Gerard Gallant could have called the timeout. He had the timeout. He could have called the timeout at any point in that run of goals. If I'm an NHL coach, and I'm not, and full disclosure, never coached an NHL game. Hell, never coached a Pee Wee game in my life. But if I start seeing goals like that going in and momentum's clearly changed, I'm calling a timeout. Yeah, you might give the power play for the Sharks some rest, but you're also taking that momentum out of their sails. And you're also giving your guys a chance to regroup, because all they're doing at this, you can see it on their faces. All they're doing at this point is like, oh God, here we go. And you just watch in terror as they watched helplessly as this was happening. Like, if they had 30 seconds to refocus, maybe they stop.
I think, if I remember this correctly, Gallant did call his timeout after the tying goal, which I still think may have been too late. I think he should have called it after 3-2, because those 2 goals happened within the first minute. Sharks still had a 4-minute power play after that. And I think that's when you need to be like, okay, I need to stop this before it gets tied.
Right.
And then game gets tied, he calls the timeout, and then seconds later, LeBanc gives the Sharks the lead. So it didn't work in their favor, but I think it helps a whole lot more if he calls that at 3-2 versus 3-3.
Yeah. And there was some shenanigans where the Vegas did try and slow things down, but it was too late.
Exactly.
It was too late by that point. Sleepy in the chat, everyone gets bad breaks. I agree. And the idea that, like, Vegas didn't, like, everyone, that any soundbite I heard about Vegas, I mean, they all said positive things about Joe Pavelski, like the players did. Yeah, there's always going to be assholes on Twitter. And look, the thing that annoys me is that someone says something really stupid like, oh, I hope, he has a big concussion, or I hope he dies. And then we all retweet it to try and shame their fan base, and the better thing to do would be not to give these people such a freaking platform to be morons. Like, these people are only in my timeline because you guys put them there. Like, I follow fans from all kinds of teams. Funnily, I don't have any of those comments directly in my timeline. They're there because you guys put them there. And I'm not trying to, whatever. Twitter is Twitter. You can do whatever you want. I've never been the trash talky guy. I've never been the, if you follow my Twitter feed, I will basically give my opinion along the facts, but I'm not arguing with every Vegas fan that feels that they were fucked over. I mean, look at, if the roles were reversed, our fan base would be in an absolute tizzy, and let's not pretend we wouldn't be.
Oh, we totally would be. Are you kidding me? Do you remember Vancouver 2011?
Or that Pavelski goal in Nashville, and so obviously,
hell, Couture in game 2.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, look at, I'm not going to tell people how to fan. I'm just saying that I wish that we would stop giving morons with 50 followers this huge platform to be morons, to try and shame an entire fan base. Like, it bothers the hell out of me. But I mean, you guys do you. I'm, this is maybe 39-year-old Ian talking here, trying to give a pep talk to the kids. But that's never been my Twitter thing, and I'm not going to tell you how to Twitter. I just wish that if I had my way, if I could snap my fingers, that's what would be gone from Twitter tomorrow. People giving people platforms to say stupid shit just to try and attack a group of people. But let's move on. I don't want to sit on here forever. And yes, we don't riot like Vancouver. This is very true. Obviously, the end result, like I said, I think we both agree that the end result, the call definitely, the call was bad and it definitely played a factor, but Vegas had things they could have done after. Vegas had things they could have done before. I mean, hell, guys, after game 3, I had this team dead to rights, man. I was writing the eulogy. When we planned last week's show, I had like 2 sets of notes. One that was my own set that no one else could see, where I was basically just had the corpse on the table, part here, liver here, ready to just tear this team asunder. And then the one that was like, okay, well, maybe things turn around and we're not at least doing an autopsy at that point. So obviously, look at Vegas had lots of chances to win the series. Hell, they tied the game. They sent it to overtime. Barclay Goodrow gets the goal. I mean, I don't know what else. Like, I mean, obviously, look at again, roles reverse. I'd be upset. I'd probably on here screaming and yelling into my camera about how the NHL absolutely jobbed us, and that's really off brand for me. But I think I probably would have been there at that point, just so livid if the roles were reversed. But it is what it is. The thing that there's a couple things that came from this I don't like though. Obviously, George McPhee stated that the NHL apologized for the call. Further to that, O'Halloran and Furlat, I don't care. I think Furlat's a terrible referee, but O'Halloran is one of the few referees in this league that I really think calls the game well. And I think not having him for the rest of the playoffs actually hurts the game a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Furlat, I don't care for. I'm pretty easy on the refs as far as stuff goes. I really don't like to bust out the tinfoil hat. Let's go with the refs. Like, I mean, I guess they had to do it, right? I mean, if you're gonna apologize, even though the NHL never really came out and apologized, it was just McPhee saying they apologized to me. What do you think about the refs not working the rest of the playoffs?
I mean, your hands are tied if you're the NHL on this one.
Yeah.
You have a call that pretty much changed the outcome of the series. I think we can all be in agreement here that if that call doesn't happen, San Jose doesn't come back in game 7, Vegas is the one moving on. You change the outcome of the series with that.
Possible. I don't know. I mean, maybe Pavelski's head banging off the ice. Maybe they bang it. Maybe they get a power play goal and a 2-minute power play for interference, I guess. If you call that right, I mean, what are you going to call it, that interference?
Probably cross-checking. I think you'd still go cross-checking on Eakins. You'd just give him 2.
Yeah.
Is what I think the call should have been at least. And
then you go from there. I mean, who knows? Maybe it still galvanizes Sharks. Maybe they still win. We'll never know.
But odds are in Vegas' favor at that point.
For
the 5-minute power play where you score 4 goals certainly helps.
For sure.
And I think your hands are tied as the NHL to not let those refs go on, considering how much of an impact that call had. Yeah. So I think it's unfortunate, but you have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been very defensive of the refs on this show many times. They call a very fast game in real time. They don't have the benefit of 40,000 replays from, all they saw was Pavs go in the air, Pavs hit the ice, and thought, well, probably something illegal happened here. But
now I wonder because as far as I saw, no official raised their hand on the play. And I wonder if a linesman made that call. Because
that's possible.
Because linesmen can make a call on a penalty that is 4 or 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost wonder if a linesman saw the cross-check and called the penalty after the fact. But I don't know that for sure.
To be a fly on the wall when they were decompressing that play with the NHL would be amazing. Generally the refs are going to will fall on the sword for the linesman because eventually they have to make the call, right? Based on what the linesman saw, they basically have to decide whether that's a call or not. I feel like the apology was another issue because I have a theory on this, and I know it's kind of gained some water, and with other people like, oh, and you're just carrying water for the NHL, which I guess sometimes I do. Just because I'm so quick to put my back up against conspiracy driven drivel. So I automatically get my back up and I try to think, okay, what's the logical question here, right? And I cannot buy into the idea that this is the first time the league's ever apologized to a team. I feel like this is the first time that an apology has gotten out. I think Gary Bettman is probably livid with Vegas right now. because of the optics of this. Because what happened, I mean, it wasn't just our fan base that screwed up and it was screaming like, oh, where's our apology for this? Like there was palpable, where's our apology for X, Y, and Z from 30 different fan bases at that point. And the reason I believe this to be true is because when you look at, I think Bill Foley is a very passionate owner. I think you could do a lot worse for an owner in this league than Bill Foley. I just feel like this is something that probably has happened, but for the good of the game, you never did it because the reaction is exactly what we saw. Well, where's our apology for this? Where's our apology for that? Like, and really, does the apology change anything? No, it's the NHL conceding, okay, maybe we screwed up, but I mean, the Sharks still played the Avs game 1. You know, it didn't suddenly become a best of 9. It didn't, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't have a winner takes all second game to try and, you know,
reconcile
to try and determine a fair winner. I cannot logically believe that this is the first time the NHL said, hey, you know, guy that, you know, contributes to our revenue stream, maybe we screwed up a little, right? Like,
I wouldn't be shocked if it happened after Boston Toronto in game 2. Wasn't there like a huge fiasco during that game?
Right, yeah. And I think that, yes, the NHL should apologize for this crappy Fanatics jersey. Rude. I can't help but think that this is not a one-time thing, or this is the first time it happened. I understand it absolutely feeds into the narrative that, you know, the Golden Knights are Gary's golden baby, and he will, you know, kill everybody in his past to make sure that this team is successful. Look, the NHL did that to themselves. So I understand how it plays into that narrative, which I don't like, but it, you know, it's a hard one to fight because, you know, like it's a difficult one to fight. And look at, like, I tweeted after the series is over, like, I cannot believe how intense this rivalry is after 2 short seasons. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah, it's like LA.
It is, and it's exactly it's exactly like LA, right? Like it's the exchanges on Twitter are just vile and horrible things that I'm just like, oh, people be better, and like everywhere, like from the teams themselves going at each other, like the teams on the ice, the fans, like I did not expect this rivalry to get this ugly this quickly.
It helps that they're competitive. That's the thing.
Yeah, no, and exactly. I mean, obviously, with LA not being as good as they were, but it's still. I mean, you know, is this a plus for the playoff system, or, you know, they've met in the playoffs twice, and look at playoffs build rivalries. That's all there is to it. You know, and the Sharks. I mean, again, you know, Vegas has really fed it to the Sharks. I was not comfortable with the Sharks' chances going into that series.
Oh no, I think that was that. On paper, at least, if the Sharks do go all the way, that will be the hardest team that they play. Yeah, is Vegas.
Sleepy asking, think with Twitter, NHL fan bases are more visceral than ever. Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it, right? Like, social media has changed everything. You want to know why, like, O'Halloran and Furlat not working any games, that might make it into a news cycle, but you have to remember, like, the thing that makes a lot of this conspiracy stuff drives is because people have to run with everything because it's a 24-hour news cycle now. Like, if you're not saying something that you've heard, someone else is going to say it for you, and you're going to miss that scoop. And I think that, like, that's where I think social media has definitely hurt the league. I think when you look at the way fans interact, I think that's bad. Yeah, and Jerry, look, again, we're not arguing. Like, even with the 5-minute penalty, the chances of the Sharks scoring that many goals in that many minutes, infinitesimally small. Like, it was. Oh
yeah.
I will never.
How power play was going.
I will never. I don't think we'll ever watch a game that crazy ever again.
No.
Like, that is a game that is going to live in infamy, and it'll be a game that I remember until I draw my last breath on this planet. Like, that is how crazy that game was.
It's a game where, if y'all follow me on Twitter, you saw this. Every time I watch the highlights, I'm scared something different will happen because that game was so crazy, and it's incredible to watch.
Like, there's moments there's moments for this team that like are always, that are always fresh in my mind, and everything else gets kind of lost in the ether. Baker goal, probably Joel Ward goal, and
Jonas
that game.
Donskoy,
Yeah,
game three.
Donskoy. Yeah, I mean that game. Those are like moments that I will vividly remember without ever needing to YouTube ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it's a crazy game, right? So Bill Foley's obviously upset, and again, I think you could do a lot worse for an owner than Bill Foley. Bill Foley is very, maybe, I think sometimes he kind of falls into that group with Ted Leonsis, where maybe sometimes he's too much fan and not enough owner. But I don't think that's a bad thing, man. At least like with Bill Foley, where he stands on things, like. And as a fan, I think that's comforting, right? Like, yes, okay, so he's feeding into their "we were job" narrative, and I get that's upsetting for him. Maybe he could have handled that a little more tactfully. But he's going to be pushing for video review of 5-minute majors. I hate this idea. I hate video review, though. Like,
I think video review works on non-subjective calls. I think offsides, as annoying as it is, and I'm not arguing that it's not annoying.
Mm-hmm.
But offsides, as small as it is, you get a definite yes or no answer. It is very obvious. Is he across the line? Yes or no. At least in theory, it is very obvious.
It should
when
be.
you get to stuff like 5-minute majors, it's like goaltender interference. Look how much of a joke goaltender interference has become since these reviews happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're not any more happy with the call because the call is subjective. And you're just going to do the same thing with the 5-minute majors. It works in this instance because it obviously wasn't a 5, but that is such a rare event that bringing into review 5-minute majors is just a waste of time, in my opinion.
Here's my problem with it, and I wanted to put pen to paper, so to speak, on this, and I'm hoping I still might have time to at some point. How did we get to the offside challenge?
Matt Duchene,
a mile offside, right?
It happens once.
It's totally egregious. It's a mile offside. And obviously we're like, okay, we can't let this happen again. And if anyone wants to know, look for the Matt Duchene offside. If I do put pen to paper, I will put the link in my article. It was egregious. It was terrible, but it was a one-time thing. Like 99.9999999 infinitesimally % of the time, the linesman's going to blow that dead.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did we get from it? We're looking for a particle of matter to determine whether a guy's offside or not. Like,
we're looking at pixels.
We're looking at pixels. I swear to God. And the problem here is you look at this, and a lot of people saying, well, how often does this happen? Blah 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 blah. Well, how often does the Matt Duchene thing happen? It happened once, and we had to suffer for it. Now you're going to be looking at review, looking at these smallest things, and like Drew said, completely subjective at this point as well. Looking for just ticky-tacky things, and that's the way this always ends. This is the slippery slope, and the more things we review, the more things that get added to the list to be reviewed, and eventually we're going to end up watching a game that's going to take 1 million hours to watch because we're going to spend half the time watching refs play Nintendo DS.
It's like player safety.
Right.
You get the reviews on player safety, and you're still not satisfied with the calls. It's not going to be any different for 5-minute majors.
Steve in the chat asking, what do I think Stastny deserved for hitting a person like that? 2-minute interference. Like it was.
Maybe even I don't even know if he. I think
it was interference.
I can see that. I think Stastny's just trying to get to the point, because when you set up on a faceoff like that, your winger doesn't usually go to the defenseman on their side. They cross so that if the puck gets pushed forward, they can get it. So they'll cross, and Stastny's trying to cross to get to, I think it was Burns on that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they've been all over Burns that series. Like, if you want to give them credit for something they did, they completely shut down Brent Burns that whole series.
They definitely did. Vegas did a lot of things right in that series.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I can see a 2-minute penalty on Stastny, but I can also see where that's not called.
It's hard because it's like, it's one of those things where you look at the end result. You look at the end result totally changes everything, right? Like, and that's the problem with these kind of penalties is if Pavelski doesn't get hurt, we're not even talking about that play because it happens 100 times a game.
Exactly.
And I'm not trying to diminish what happened to Pavelski. Like, that's the hard part, right? Because it's like, I say that, and then like there are people like, oh, but look at Pavelski, like look how bad he was injured. Like, this isn't, that shouldn't be allowed to happen during a hockey game, but it does. 100%.
Look at Malarchuk. I mean, that was hockey, and it was horrible.
Awful.
That is one of the hardest things for me to watch, is that incident.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing illegal happened on that play. It's just incredibly unfortunate.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's hockey, right?
No one's trying to do that.
No. Right. Did the NHL apologize again? See, this is what I was talking about earlier. Did the NHL apologize for Game 2? I don't know, because Doug Wilson's a veteran enough guy that if the NHL did apologize for it, he's not going to the media to whine about it and say we got jobbed. They focus on the next game. Look at hockey. You got to remember, this is a team that is built on an old boys club on top of an old boys club on top of an old boys club. Like there's I hate saying the word, but there's a code to the way these general managers and owners generally conduct themselves. I feel like Vegas very much went off script here. Like, that's what I feel happened. I feel like apologies like this probably happen more often than we think. They just don't get made public because they make the game look stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would be shocked if that was actually the first time.
Right. I can't logically sit here and put my thinking cap on and say this has never happened before. Like, there's
you're gonna get the was it, who are they playing? Was it the Bruins, where Gretzky should have been called for a penalty and then didn't, then scored the game-winning goal?
Toronto.
Is it Toronto?
Yeah, Toronto, LA.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I still have
well, that's the goal. I think I'm pretty sure that goal sent the Kings to the Stanley Cup final that year.
Where's their apology? Gosh,
where is Buffalo's apology for Brett Hull's foot in the crease? Yeah, look at again. Let's talk about hockey fans for a second, and then I'm totally getting off this topic. We're not talking about Vegas anymore. Yeah. I know it's easy to deride a new team and be like, oh, well, these are all new fans, blah, 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 blah. Guys, I'm older than the Sharks. I've been a Sharks fan since day one. There was hockey before the Sharks. People jumped. Yes, people probably jumped on the bandwagon. Maybe people in Vegas who had other teams now have a hometown team. Look, they're not all brand spanking new fans. Let's just stop that. Be good. Be better, people. God damn it.
I mean, look, we're watching hockey in California. We're watching hockey in Texas. We're watching hockey in Nevada. That is a fucking miracle.
Yes.
Just appreciate it.
Let's just... Okay, I'm done with this, because we could whataboutism for the rest of the show. And I don't want to do this. This is what Twitter's for. You can whataboutism with me on Twitter for hours. I'll do it happily. I got a question, since we're still talking about moving in. Actually, let's move into the second round here. So the Sharks are now up a game in their second round series against the Colorado Avalanche. How drastically have your feelings on the Sharks, if they have at all? I mean, I know some people had the Sharks making it through the series and they weren't all negative Nancy's like me. How drastically have your feelings about the Sharks changed now that we are in the second round and we're playing Colorado, which I think stacks up for San Jose a little bit better than Colorado did?
They have changed drastically. It's been a roller coaster. After game one of round one, I was like, wow, the Sharks look absolutely dominant. There's nothing that could stop them on the way to the Cup. Games 2, 3, and 4 happen. Oh my God, this team is trash. Martin Jones can't make a save. Yada, yada, yada. Games 5, 6, and 7 happen. Holy crap, this team is stacked. Martin Jones is looking really good now. Mm-hmm. This team cannot be stopped on its way to the Cup. And that hasn't changed yet. I think Vegas, and I've been saying this since, ever.
Yeah.
Vegas was going to be the toughest opponent for the Sharks. Even if Calgary made it through, I think Vegas is going to be the toughest opponent for the Sharks.
Agreed.
Unless they play Tampa in the Cup final. And now that they've gone through that, Martin Jones is playing great again. And now you're matching up against a Colorado team that isn't nearly the team as Vegas is. And that's not to take away from Colorado. They have probably the best line in hockey on that team. But it's not as physical. It's not as skilled. I think the Sharks have a much easier time in the series. At least I hope so. And knowing that has kind of calmed me down, given me more confidence in this team.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, my feelings, like, when they won Game 7, I mean, I felt kind of crappy that I was down on this team as hard as I was, even though, like, I think all the reasons I laid out for being, down on the team in that series, and hell, we saw most of the things that I had said to be down about in that series. We saw in that series. Like, that's the crazy thing about this 7-game series, was we kind of just saw everything. We saw the good, the bad, the ugly, all in one series. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was much more like Hockey Jerk and I had both said this. It was like St. Louis in 2012.
Yep.
It was from games 2, 3, and 4. It was St. Louis in 2012. Games 5, 6, and 7. It was like St. Louis in 2016.
Right. Yeah, I think that's an excellent analogy. Yeah, I mean, Sleepy saying, I regret not going to Game 7. I thought same old Sharks. I thought for sure they were going to get just, they put up a good fight, and as much as negative as I still was on the team, like, it was harder to be as critical because, look at they won at home. They gutted one out in Vegas on Vegas's ice. I mean, it certainly, I would never, I mean, I don't like using the words. I think it's just like one of those words where we just use it all the time now because it makes people angry. Like, there was never going to be, I don't think there was ever going to be a choke in the series because the teams were evenly matched. But you definitely couldn't, if they lost in Game 7, like, we wouldn't be sitting here saying, oh, well, they choked.
Because no, I don't think so either.
They gave up just a Herculean effort to come back in this series. And they deserve, I think, a ton of credit for that. I think that there's still definitely some flaws in the team. Look at what team isn't flawed.
Exactly.
And I don't think that those flaws are going away. The flaws don't go away because you're winning. You win in spite of your flaws.
And what was the one flawless team going into the playoffs? Tampa
apparently. But apparently not.
Their flaw was apparently the Columbus Blue Jackets.
The flaw was apparently the Columbus Blue Jackets. The flaw was, I mean, but maybe if you look closer, though, I mean, look at how many goals the Tampa Bay Lightning were regularly giving up during that last stretch of the season. I mean, they were probably there. We just didn't see them because all we saw was 62 wins and, oh my God, everyone's going to get crushed by this team. So I guess that brings us to the question, which Martin Jones is real? Game 6 or 7 or 2 and 4? And I would say both of them.
Both of them are very real.
Both of them are the real Martin Jones.
And it is terrifying because you never know which one you will get.
Yeah, like, I don't think I really hate this idea. Like, obviously right now it's like, oh, well, playoff Martin Jones is back. Oh, okay, I guess. We thought playoff Martin Jones was back after Game 1 too. And again, I'm not trying to take away from anyone. I just think that they're both, like, I don't think that there's this Jekyll and Hyde Martin Jones. I just think Martin Jones is a league average goalie. You can win with league average goalie as long as he is playing up to league average. Unfortunately, for great spans of the season and during the playoffs, he was not playing at, even average.
But I think you can kind of test yourself on how you feel about Martin Jones based on the first goal he gave up in Game 1.
Yep.
Because when I saw that goal, it was, cliche within the first 5 minutes.
But I didn't feel bad about it.
Exactly. Because that goal, one, I don't think was his fault. I mean, maybe you don't give up the rebound, but that was a hard shot to not give up a rebound on. But I wasn't like, oh God, we're getting this Martin Jones again. I feel a lot more comfortable with him now than I did to start even round 1.
Yeah, I mean, look at my pitchfork's right over there. I'm ready. The second Martin Jones craps the bed, I will grab my pitchfork and I will be right there ready to put it in his stupid face.
We should have gone Ryan Miller.
No, I see. I don't even go there. I like you went with a goalie. You dance with the girl you brought, and the girl we brought was Martin Jones. But my pitchfork's over there. I reserve the right to grab it whenever the hell I feel like it. But no, look at, I feel good about this team. It's weird because the second round, like, so far, and we were talking about this before the show, like, I don't really hate anybody.
They're all very likable teams. Like, yeah. I guess Boston is the most unlikable.
I guess.
Yeah, Marchand.
Yeah, okay. Boston's, I guess, the by default heel, but
yeah,
they're so far over there that I just don't even care about them right now.
Yeah. Every team is like, I kind of like these teams.
Yes. Yeah, like we can go around, we can talk about some of those series. We may as well. I mean, I think we've covered the Sharks and the Sharks Vegas pretty good here, and we've I mean, look at I like the Sharks in this series. I feel like their chances are significantly better to do some damage in the playoffs now that Vegas is in the review.
Definitely.
I mean, on my bracket, they're going all the way. Just because they went all the way last time, I was sour on them. They surprised me in the first round, so I'm going with that. But I mean, I don't want to say the path feels like it's never been clear. Like I feel like they have advantages over every team, at least in the West. I think in the East, there's some teams that could definitely give them a challenge in the final, but in the West,
I think Columbus and Boston especially.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But I look at the West, and there's, again, like the Sharks are flawed, but so are the Avalanche, so are the Stars. Maybe the Blues are less flawed than I'd like them to be, but I feel like that's still a beatable team.
And I think everyone was saying it too. There's whoever wins this series has the clearest path.
Oh yeah,
to the Cup final.
All the other,
especially after Calgary got knocked out.
With Calgary out, the Jets out, Predators out. I mean, these are teams that when the season started, we all thought were super, super contenders. Like we thought these were the contender. Like all the teams we thought were the contenders are gone. Maybe
except
other than
Carolina.
Yes, except Carolina, of course. Of course, except for Carolina. I did not jump on the bandwagon this year. I was done. I was done with them. I was done with the Coyotes. I was done with there's another team I was done with too.
Was it Cal? I don't know. I was done with Calgary for a long time because every time I thought they would do well, they tanked.
In the Flames, like I was never.
Blue line was so good for so long, and they did nothing with it.
I don't know. Yeah, all right. So let's talk about some other series. Obviously, Boston, Columbus. As far as I know, we are in overtime right now.
Or heading to overtime. Yep, we're about 100 seconds into overtime.
All right. Well, there you go. Who did you take in the series? I already took Boston in the series. It's in my little 17-minute blurb that I did the other day. Thanks for those that watched that. I'm going to try and do less solo things because I don't think they come out very well.
I don't see with all these series. It's like I don't really know because round one was so dramatic. Round two is a crapshoot in every series for me, except for Colorado, San Jose. That's the one where I'm like, okay, I definitely have a winner in that one.
The Sharks just can't look past the Avalanche. I think that's the one thing that
exactly you can't sleep on them.
You can't sleep on them. Don't and the Sharks as a team, they cannot start looking into the next round against this team. That's they need to take care of business.
Yeah, I was afraid of a game one loss for that reason.
Yes.
It's like, oh, we got through Vegas. Now it's just Colorado, but they did play well yesterday.
They played well considering they were tired. Colorado was the fresher team.
Mm-hmm. Half the team is dead.
Half the team is dead. Dead or dying.
Yeah. Oh, good save by Rask there on. I don't know who that is. Oh, that's Foligno. I see that this is up in the air for me. Like I could see either team taking this in 7. Boston has the advantage right now. If Boston wins this game in overtime, I mean, I have Boston. I'll take Boston then. The interesting thing with Boston is Charlie Coyle's putting up like quite a postseason right now. He's got 6 points in 8 games, and none of his line mates are even like close to that. So Coyle's been done a good job in that 3C position. But I mean, I love the way that Columbus is built. I think their defense is solid. I like Duchene. I like Panarin. I think Bobrovsky's putting up a great season, although so is Tuukka Rask. Bobrovsky has a 929. Rask has a 927. So it can go either way on this. I don't have a clear-cut winner, but I like Columbus, so I'll take Columbus.
All right. I have Boston. What do I think of Tuukka Rask? Tuukka Rask is a ticking time bomb. I can't think of a better way to describe Tuukka Rask. He's a ticking time bomb. If you can get his best hockey out of him before the timer hits 0, then you're great. But if that timer hits 0, oh god, those Finnish goalies. You see it with Finnish goalies really in general. Pekka Rinne, I think is a very similar temperament goalie. Maybe Tuukka Rask is a little more angrier than Pekka Rinne, but I think like they're both ticking time bombs. And if you can get that timer to 0, advantage you.
Just make the series go as long as you can.
Yeah.
So you have more time for that timer to hit 0.
Yeah. Make him angry. If you can make him angry, if you can get him off his game, then he will absolutely implode. But I do like Tuukka Rask. And I think Tuukka Rask doesn't get nearly enough credit for being one of the top goaltenders in this league, despite being on an NBC team.
No, I do like Rask. Yeah, he's put up some great seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he deserves that recognition. Is he Henrik Lundqvist? No, but no one else is.
I like but the reason I like the Bruins, I think they're the more veteran team, and I think that's gonna definitely play a factor. They've got a lot of guys that not only had a ton of playoff experience, but they've got guys with rings, and I think rings is kind of arbitrary, but when you have rings in the room that are from the same group, from the same winning team, I think that matters. I don't think just arbitrarily adding guys with rings in the room is the way to go. Obviously, the Sharks found this out the hard way on numerous occasions, but when you have a group of guys that have won together before, I think that does matter because they've been there. Look at this Boston team. A lot of their top guys, they've seen the absolute highs and the absolute lows. They got reverse swept. Then they won the cup. Like these guys have been through everything.
They lost the cup in 30 seconds.
Yeah,
to Chicago.
Yeah. This team has seen everything, and I think when you're looking at, that's why I think this team scares me so much, because there's not much that the core of this team has not seen together, and they've weathered it all. Whether maybe they've lost and they came back and they took care of business. So I don't know. I really like this Boston team coming out of the East all the way for that reason.
Don't discount Columbus's will to win.
I don't discount Columbus. I just feel like this is why I like Boston in the series. This is why I like Boston going forward, because I think just the collection of guys they've got, and they've got probably one of the best top lines in hockey, period.
Oh, absolutely. It's after Colorado, it's Pastrnak, Marchand, and Bergeron. And every other season it's been them. It's just McKinnon has been just wrecking the league. So that's the best line in hockey right now. But yeah, no, that top line's insane.
Yeah. New York Islanders versus Carolina. Where's that series stand right now? We're what? Carolina leads 1-0, right? Because they play tomorrow.
They lead 1-0 in the series, and they've also outscored the Islanders 1-0.
That's true. That's right. This is a series. There's so many series usually in the playoffs where I'm like, just drop a meteor on the damn arena and be done with it. This one, I wish there was a way that both teams could win. Like, there's so many likable teams left, and it bugs me.
I'll drop a meteor on Barclays Center, but just have them play in Nassau instead.
Okay, that'll agree with. I like this series is going to be fun. I think it's one of the more interesting ones. As game one proved, I think this is going to be a close series. I don't think either team's going to run away with it. Mm-hmm. I feel like I took the Islanders. I feel like it sucks. I just like a lot of players on these teams. And sometimes when I can't get angry at a team, I start looking at, okay, which players do I like? And and we all know I'm a big Matt Barzal fan. But there's a lot of other, nice stories. Like I really like the Robin Leonard story this year. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot to like. And then there's the Storm Surge and Carolina. And like I said, I wish both teams could win. It's unfortunate that one of these teams has to go. I wish that the bracket would change and if one was playing Columbus, one was playing Boston, then I could cheer for both of these teams going through. But in this case, I think I like the Islanders here. I don't like them by much. I think it's going to be a long series, but I do have the Islanders in this series.
Give me Carolina. Give me them all the way.
Of course.
I know I'm being a total homer there, but I was right about them winning in 7 against Washington, so y'all could take that. A lot of great things have come out of Carolina, though. Look at the playoff series that Fogle and McGinn have had. Mm-hmm. Fogle had 15 points in the entire regular season. He has 6 points in 8 playoff games. McGinn scores the winner that sends them to round 2. And then you look at Slavin, and he's got 9 assists. He has no goals, but he has 9 assists. And we've seen a lot of highlights of his just stellar defensive play. And I think he's the next Mark-Edward Vlasic. He is that good, and I've been high on him since he entered the league. So I'm happy to see him doing so well in Carolina. It also helps, to have a goalie who's not Cam Ward, who's putting up, actually league average numbers and keeping you in a game.
Right. Why do I like Matt Barzal? Matt Barzal is a guy who, anytime I watched him, he just always stood out to me. Like anytime the Thunderbirds were like the game of the week or whatever, like anytime I ever saw Matt Barzal play, he just always stood out to me. Like it's just a guy where, there's players like that. I think another player who is very similar to that when I watch them play, especially despite the people that were around him, was Alex DeBrincat. They just always stood out to me when I watched them play, whether it was, DeBrincat with my own eyes or Barzal watching, a stream here or there, on this Sportsnet game of the week or whatever. He just always impressed me. He was just always a guy that I was just really enjoyed watching play. So that's why, and that's, and then, I kind of hope that the Sharks would scoop him up in the draft. They got Timo Meier. History's history. We're not going back there.
Timo Meier's not a horrible pick either.
No, Timo Meier has actually, Timo Meier, to his credit, has actually been a much better pick than I thought he was when the Sharks drafted him.
Definitely. You got to also give, I know it's not Matt Barzal, but you got to give Trotz some credit here. Like, yeah, the things he's done for that team are insane.
Oh, absolutely. So anyway, Barzal, that's why I like Matt Barzal.
First hockey trip.
Vince G is trying to catch up. He says, "For the love of God, don't give Peter DeBoer more things to challenge him." Amen.
Lose all those timeouts.
I guess, which brings us to the last series, Dallas and St. Louis. I haven't really paid much attention to this series yet. I still think St. Louis should be mad, because like with the Islanders, I feel like the Islanders and the Hurricanes have really stolen St. Louis's thunder. Like if the Islanders and Carolina don't have the seasons they also did, and under different circumstances, like I still think like St. Louis, this is the real Cinderella here. When you look at what St. Louis had to endure to come all the way back into the playoffs, I mean, there's, if you step back, maybe, and I just don't like the Blues, but if you step back and say, maybe you look at all the teams in, and would St. Louis winning be the most terrible thing? No, you could make a movie from that. You could make a movie. We could have a new Miracle something movie. St. Louis, I don't know. I don't know what you call it. You can't call it Miracle, obviously.
Missouri.
Right, Miracle Under the Arch. I don't know, man. But you could make a movie from the run that they've had if should they go all the way. And but I also like what they like. Look at I like their cohesion. I like them up and down better than I like the Dallas Stars. I still think the Dallas Stars are a little bit of a glass cannon. But man, that glass cannon has a lot of firepower.
Oh, definitely. I was like, if you look at the production between both teams, it's very similar to each other. The only major difference is that Dallas's top line is positive in goal differential and St. Louis's top line is negative in it. But Dallas seems much less sustainable. You've got, I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name, Rupi Hintz.
Yeah.
Who's tearing it up right now. He's got 7 points in 8 playoff games, and that's great. I'm just curious if he can hold that production. It also helps to have Zuccarello back, who's putting together a decent postseason. Bishop's playing well. He's got a 938. And it really helps to have that second line depth, because in the regular season, it was literally like your top line in point total and then 3 defensemen.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next top forward was, I don't remember who it was off the top of my head, but they had like 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a very low scoring season for the forwards outside of that top line.
Yep.
So it's huge for Dallas to get that production. It's just, I don't know if it's sustainable, unlike St. Louis, where it seems more of a given that they will continue the current pace.
Right. And that's kind of without really looking at the numbers, that's kind of how I feel about them too. Mm-hmm. Like, I just feel like St. Louis is just the better top to bottom team. I have St. Louis coming out of the series. And you look what Binnington has done. I mean, I don't see that ending anytime soon. It'll be interesting to see. because we were also discussing like how I'll bring this up to you. I know we're gonna do awards at some point, like when we have just time and we can just kind of go through awards top to bottom and put everyone to sleep. But the Calder vote came out today, and for me, it's been Elias Pettersson going away since like the first week of the season, and now Binnington's in the race, and we were talking about that a little bit because I was like, when's the last goalie to win the Calder? Which I thought was Nabokov, but I was very wrong. But
there's the last relevant goalie to win it.
Right. Yeah, because we looked at like Calder not like even Calder winning goalies and how a lot of them just like kind of went into the wayside after their Calder season. Nabokov, obviously being exception, had a very long career.
But you have Chris Mason and Andrew Raycroft are the two most recent ones.
Right. And that's pretty great. Steve Mason.
Yes.
So it's interesting, it's interesting to see what happens because I think we talked about this with Martin Jones too. It's like, goalie comes out, goalie's hot, goalie has no book. Teams figure out book. And then goalie has to make adjustments, and whether goalie makes adjustments or not. And now obviously that's going to be the next chapter for Binnington, is he's going to have to basically, once teams figure him out, which they will, because we have the internet and tape and oodles and oodles and oodles of tape now from 1,000 different angles and, super high def. We could pinpoint your hole down to like a micrometer. So, and it's going to be, can he make the adjustments to not become Jake Allen?
Exactly. Basically. Or the next Cam Ward.
Or the next Cam Ward. Or the next Andrew Raycroft or whatever.
Or the next Antti Niemi.
Oh.
We see this happen time and time again where you have a rookie goalie who leads their team to the cup final or to a cup, and then the next season.
Or even just to the playoffs in the case of Chris Mason.
Yeah. And then
Steve Mason.
Think of Michael Layton. When was the last time you heard of Michael Layton?
Yeah. Isn't he? He's playing somewhere. He's still playing.
He exists, I think.
Hey, have you won a cup? How bad could he be? Probably heading back to Europe this summer.
Sounds about right.
I don't know. I'm not gonna have to turn this into a game, but I don't know if it's. But at the same time, when you look at what the St. Louis Blues have done with Binnington, I mean, I don't think it's such a two-horse race at this point. And I know some Dallas fans are really angry that Heiskanen is not. That was not in the final three, and I can get their anger. I think. I think Toronto fans are equally frustrated that Morgan Riley wasn't a Norris finalist, and I feel like he probably should have been, but what do you do?
A record-setting season to start the year.
Yeah. What do you do, right? It is what it is.
I do love
it is what it is. We're gonna discuss awards later. I do definitely want to get to that. Let's. The Barracuda are done. I don't really have a lot to add to the conversation, but I do want to point out that Kevin did go on air after the game and did it, did yeoman's work. So if you can find that video, definitely go watch it if you're looking for some thoughts on the Barracuda going out. They're going to be better than anything me and Drew are going to tell you right now, because we're just going to look at some numbers and be like, well, if this happened, then maybe this wouldn't have happened. And, I'm not going to BS my way through it. Kevin did the work, and I think that everyone should go and watch Kevin's video. Unless Drew, you have anything on it. Unless you have anything that you can add.
I'm not a Barracuda guy.
Okay. So let's move on to some questions here. Oh, actually, first I'm going to check in with Junior. Ottawa has moved on to the final round of the OHL playoffs. They're in the championship series. They will play Saginaw or Guelph in the final. I don't have Chmelevsky's stat line in front of me, but Ottawa has not lost a game in the playoffs. And in order to kill time waiting for Saginaw and Guelph to finish, they are now digging. They're now making sandbags to stop Ottawa from flooding, which is probably a good thing, because there's a lot of flooding, and I hope everyone over in the out east, where a lot of these floodings are pretty serious, I hope they're okay. Jake McGrew scored the game winner in the Chiefs' sole overtime victory. Unfortunately, they fell to the Vancouver Giants in 5 games, so they will not be moving on. I don't know what Ruinarand is doing, because I haven't checked the Q stats yet, but again, Eamon's riding the pine, so it doesn't really matter. So I got some questions. Mike Powell asking, thoughts on Nylander staying with team beyond the season?
What's his contract now? trying to
a good
remember
question. I should have had this
what he
up.
held out for.
Should have had this up. Cap friendly.
I mean, I don't know how you trade Nylander after
Nyquist. Nyquist.
Oh, sorry, Nyquist. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm on the wrong team right now.
You are in
no, I don't.
La La Land.
I thought this podcast was about the Maple Leafs.
It has nothing to do with the Maple Leafs this week, thank God. Until now.
Sorry. No, I don't think Nylander will stay with the team. I don't think he's done nearly enough. Nyquist. I am talking about Nyquist. Let me write this down. I don't think Nyquist is going to stay on the San Jose Sharks, which is the team we are talking about. I don't think he will stay on the team. I was hopeful when he came, given his stat line in Detroit, but I don't think he's done enough as a Shark. He's done some good things, but from someone like him, you really wanted him to produce on the second line, and he hasn't really done that. I think he scored his first goal goal in a man net this postseason yesterday. And I think he scored like 2 or 3 goals since coming over from Dallas in the regular season. So it's just not enough for me. I think it's better to allocate those funds somewhere if you're trying to re-sign Pavelski or if you're trying to re-sign Karlsson.
Yeah, I think that's obviously going to be the key thing. It's like, well, what else do they do first? Like Nyquist for me I think Nyquist is a nice ad. Like I'm not as sour on him as other people are. I think, who was it in the chat? I want to make sure that people are getting, Marty in the chat saying, he's not a guy that was really built for the Vegas thing. I still think that with the depletions of players in your lineup, you expected more from Nyquist. Maybe he comes alive in the end, but here's the problem, right? Is that if let's say the Sharks go far, and Nyquist is a big part of that, well, guess what? His price tag just significantly goes up with it. Or maybe he doesn't do anything and his price is cheap, but then you're like, well, why do you keep him? It's such a catch-22 this time of year because you don't really know what's going to happen. I like Nyquist. I think for the right price, maybe bring him back because I feel like, I'm a little concerned about the Sharks' forward depth going into next season. You're going to need some guys, I think. And I don't think your answer, I know I'm going to get crap for this, I don't think your answer lies with the Barracuda. I don't think the Barracuda can fill in guys where the Sharks need to fill in guys.
I don't think so either. I
think the Barracuda can fill in your bottom 6, but they cannot fill in your top 6. So, and there's a lot of factors. Is Thornton coming back? Is Pavelski coming back? Is Karlsson coming back? How much money is left on the table if all those guys return? There's a lot of factors there. I would be very lukewarm to signing him, but I wouldn't be out. Like my pitchfork could stay over there. I'd be okay with it. Like it's
like the Sharks brought back Eric Fair.
Right. Like I'm not gonna
okay.
I'm not gonna burn the city down over it. I'm not getting angry. I'm not getting angry. I'm not burning down the city over it. I'm just no police cars will be flipped and burned if Nyquist resigns. But
I just felt like he could have been so much more, especially on paper with him being 28.
Yes.
I think he's 28. He could have been so much more to the future of this team. And we just haven't seen that yet.
No. I mean, I would, playoffs aren't over yet, but is it a bust now? Yeah, it's kind of looking like a bust of a deadline signing, but most deadline signings, like most deadline deals are busts in nature. Like it's just the reality of it. I mean,
if you don't win the cup, it's a bust.
Right.
If you rented somebody and you didn't win, it's a bust.
Yeah. Do I think the Sharks again? I'm going to save all the what do the Sharks do until they're done, because right now they're still playing, and I'm not going to treat them like they're dead. Even now that I'm far more confident. Do I think Dell's played his last season in Teal? Probably, but again, we can roster bait all summer. I don't want to get too buried into this kind of thought right now.
Just a quick update: Columbus on the power play in overtime.
All right.
Sorry.
Don't give up a goal, Boston. I mean, it's that simple. Do you feel that the amount of upsets, and this is a great question from Felix, do you feel that the amount of upsets in the first round is good for the game and the league? Yes or no?
Felix, great question. We were talking about this beforehand and complimented the question. So great contribution, man.
Yeah, excellent question.
In my opinion, I think it's bad. I think having this many of them is maybe not bad for the league, but I think it's bad for viewership.
Sure. Yeah.
In the play.
Absolutely. I mean, look at
if you just have Carolina upsetting Washington, or if you have Columbus just upsetting Tampa, now you have your underdog team you can root for. Mm-hmm. But now it's all underdogs. So who are you watching for?
Yeah. I think it's both good and bad. I think it's good because it's compelling. Like we're talking about, everyone's talking about it. Brackets were like the NHL had to put in a second bracket challenge to remedy the situation. Like, and I think that's good. Like there's an amount of chaos that needs to happen. I don't think that a playoffs that goes by the numbers per se, where it's like, all the top teams just go until there's 2 teams left and they're the best 2 teams. Like this is going to be one of the more interesting playoff series. This isn't like, I know it's the first time all the division leaders have been gone, but we've had upset heavy playoffs before. Mm-hmm. And the league was just fine because I don't think, like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, this is the parity and this is terrible. This isn't going to last. Do you think that this is going to be the new normal where it's just going to be upsets every year? No, this is a 1 season thing and it's going to go back to normal next season. Mark my words, it's not going to be, there's going to be upsets. There's always upsets. Will there be this many in any time in the, very near future? Like maybe 1 playoff out of 5, you're going to get this. Mm-hmm. Maybe 1 playoff out of 10, you get this. But this isn't the new normal. And I think people running around like chickens with their head cut off, like, oh my God, this guy's falling. There's too much parity. They're morons. This is gonna correct itself going forward. Just through normal, good teams are going to be good teams again, and maybe they don't get exposed. I think teams are, obviously, with the salary cap era, teams are more flawed than they once were. Obviously, dynasties are a lot harder to put together. But look, I mean, we've watched teams win multiple Stanley Cups in a run. I mean, we watched 3 teams basically hold the Stanley Cup for a decade. Boston won, LA, Chicago. We watched Penguins win 2 years in a row. Like, the good teams are still good teams. And, the only thing this is bad for probably is your Vegas bookie. Honestly, like this is the one people that are probably hurting in this situation is your Vegas bookie. I think this is fine. I don't think that I don't feel like this is going to be bad for the game or anything. Yeah, is it going to be bad for ratings? Like, I think, NBC and Sportsnet were definitely watching the end of that Boston-Toronto series. NBC probably cheering for Boston and Sportsnet cheering for Toronto, because obviously, like, that's going to be whoever won between that was probably going to be the ratings winner going forward. Like, who was going to get the ratings going forward? Obviously with NBC is going to do well because Boston went through, and Boston draws a lot of television eyes. In Canada, obviously Toronto going through would draw a lot of eyes, although which would lead to there's no Canadian teams left in the playoffs. Ha ha ha. I don't even address that because it's stupid. It's stupid. I start the season. I'm Canadian. I am as Canadian as they get. And I will tell you one thing right now. I start every NHL season hoping an American team wins the Stanley Cup, and that is the San Jose Sharks. And once the Sharks are out, I like watching hockey, but I don't care if the team that wins the cup is Canadian, because I, at that point, gravitate to players I like, or maybe there's a team that I like. But generally speaking, those players are Canadian. So
interesting question there, Felix. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah, but that was a great question, though. I don't think it's as bad as it's being made out to be. I think that next season, course correction's coming.
Yeah, I think it's less bad for the league and more bad for the television deals. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're Sportsnet, if you're Sportsnet, now this is what the podcast has to do with Toronto Maple Leafs. If you're Sportsnet, you've got to be wondering at this point, why in the hell did you spend? I don't remember the final number for what the TV deal was for Sportsnet, and then you bought half the Leafs. Like, if I'm a Sportsnet exec, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I mean, I'm still printing money, but goddamn, what could have been? What could have been? I got to get back to my questions here. Okay, so Seymour Sports asked some really good questions here. So obviously one playoff format that comes up, and I've been totally fine with the playoff format. I've been a proponent of, I understand why the format exists. It's not perfect, but I understand why it exists. But we'll do this little mental exercise here. What are the benefits and drawbacks of the NHL going to a 1-per-8 conference challenge system where number 1 can challenge whoever the hell they want, and then number 2 can challenge from what's left, number 3, number 4, and now I guess 3 and 4 would just play each other, right? What would be the advantages and drawbacks? I'll let you go first.
I think the advantage, at least from a league perspective or from a television perspective, is you make an event out of that. It's like the draft lottery.
Yeah.
You have another event that, you can get advertising revenue from because you're looking to see what teams are going to play what. Now, I'm assuming we're running under the assumption that you stay in conferences. Like San Jose is not going to challenge Columbus.
Right.
Okay. Because then you get the annoying travel things. I think the positive is that, at least from a league perspective, you do get that revenue. Negatives, I mean, this is weird because I don't like it, but off the top of my head, I can't think of any inherent negatives to it. I think what it could do that could kind of hurt the league is you don't get as many rivalries because you're not forced into those as much.
Yes.
You're not playing the team that you've been jockeying for position for. You're playing the team that you have the best odds against, which is good for the teams, but again, bad for the ratings.
Mm-hmm. I think the disadvantage would be less so in the Eastern Conference, more so in the Western Conference. The one thing that the divisional format does give you is it gives you a blueprint for television. Your East Coast games start at 7:30. Your Central Division games start at 8:30, 9:30. Your Pacific Division games start at 10:30. And I think for TV that works amazingly because you can generally schedule your games to line up and play at a time that is convenient, at least in the early rounds. I mean, I understand you guys get screwed as the playoffs go on. You guys get screwed. Your games become 5:30 games. It sucks because Eastern primetime television is all TV execs care about, and I realize that sucks. But for the earlier rounds, it makes it very easy to schedule games that are easily to so you can watch your team at a time that's convenient, or at least more appropriate for you, where you're not trying to get out of work early and fighting with traffic and blah blah blah. So I think that is a disadvantage. Like obviously, if if a Dallas challenges a Vancouver, for example, let's say Dallas is first overall and they challenge Vancouver, like that time zone, that game's going to bounce time zone to time zone to time zone to time zone, or and that's kind of unfortunate. Or Chicago challenges Vancouver or something like that. So I think that's a disadvantage. I agree with you 120 million %. Like this would be a ratings winner. You know what? Here's the problem though. Who would have to come out and make the challenge? Like I want to see the players do this. Like I want to see the captain of.
I want to see Pavelski walking out.
I want to see Joe Pavelski walk out to the podium and says, the
Dallas, San Jose Sharks challenge.
Yeah, like Dallas, you're next. NHL players don't like doing this kind of stuff. They, this is why we don't have the draft at the All-Star game anymore, because the players are like, man, I don't like being people. But that's what I would want to see, and I don't think we would get that. And I think that would be, I don't think that the stars would align for it to be done properly. I want to see Joe Pavelski come out and be like, yeah, bam. I want to see Austin Matthews come out, or whoever the captain happens to be, come out and say, yeah, Boston, you know what? We're killing you this time.
And there's a giant octagon for them to for
right.
Austin Matthews and Zdeno Chara to just go at it.
Yeah, I want to, that's what I want. Like I want that kind of drama. I want to see the reaction on the other team's faces when they get called. And I mean, it would be great because there's so much more. It would add some intrigue to the early round because although I feel like the early rounds, like the way they have it set up, like you have your rivalries, and that's good because you don't need to. The earlier rounds of the playoffs are obviously the ones that are harder to sell because there's a lot of different ways for eyeballs to go. So you can go, oh, well, look at, there's San Jose Vegas. They hate each other. I'm going to watch that series because I know they hate each other. Whereas I would, I think the later rounds sell themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to sell a conference final. Conference final, 4 teams are left, and 2 of them are going to play for the cup. You don't need to sell it more than that.
Right. I think one advantage that the challenge system has for a team is you look back at 2012, and it was, San Jose and LA were 7 and 8. St. Louis and Vancouver were 1 and 2. And I remember last game of the season, I was like, I really want San Jose to lose this game because I felt so much more comfortable playing Vancouver than I did playing St. Louis. And because San Jose won, they draw into that tough St. Louis matchup while LA plays a Vancouver team that was the only one in their division to make the playoffs. And they go on to win the cup.
Yep.
Not saying absolutely. Those 2 things are necessarily correlated, but
I like the chaos of it too, right? Like, I mean, look at, there's a lot of dumb Twitter hockey talk, but there's a lot of good Twitter hockey talk. And I mean, I would love for, oh my God, this team challenged this team, and now this team is totally handing them their lunch. Like, I would live for that conversation.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, there's a lot of advantages. I just can't see the NHL doing it because I think to do it properly, the players would have to take a bigger role, which they're generally not comfortable with. We don't have enough Shea Weber's, PK Subban, Brent Burns. Like, we don't have enough of those type of personalities in the league to make that what it could be. But I just don't know. I mean, I'm still, at the same time though, I still like, I'm an old man yelling at a cloud. I like my proper, this is how it lines up, whether it's 1 through 8, whether it's divisional. Like, I just like my playoffs to be kind of just the way they are.
So, you're a traditionalist.
I'm a traditionalist. Yeah, absolutely. So I think I like the idea of it, and I'm sure if they put it in, I wouldn't cry, but I would never advocate for that system, even though I just said why it would be super awesome.
A 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does the team that gets picked last still get an ugly car?
Yeah, absolutely. There was another question too I wanted to get to. I've got a couple questions in there that I missed in the chat, and I don't want to.
Thank you for your questions, everybody. I love answering.
Oh yeah.
These.
Oh, you'll think about look at Ryan Reeves coming out to the podium and challenging another team. Love it.
I mean, yeah.
Like, and then there are guys in the league. Like, it doesn't have to be the captain. I just think that there's not enough of those guys to make that as good of television as it could be. Yeah. There's another question I missed, and I don't feel bad.
We're getting double overtime in Boston.
Oh my goodness. I'm asking for WWF Interactive. Yeah, I guess I kind of am, come out, cut a promo and why you're going to beat the team. Like, obviously you're never going to see that, but even just have it coming out and saying, hey, I want this, right? Damn it.
I want to see you in the ring.
In the first round of the playoffs.
And then they show that highlight on like the NBC promotions.
Sleepy asked a really good question. Which teams would you rather not see in the Stanley Cup final ratings wise? I think anything that doesn't have Boston in it is a disaster for US.
Like, I think your worst possible outcome, I think someone mentioned this in the chat too, is probably Carolina Dallas.
Yeah.
It's probably your worst possible outcome for the NHL.
I don't see, and that makes me sad a little bit too, because I think like Dallas is such a fun team to watch.
Oh, definitely, but there's no huge story there.
Yeah.
Like, at least if San Jose's in the Cup final, you have the Joe Thornton, appeal. You have, the Islanders winning the Cup after John Tavares leaves the team. But Carolina and Dallas don't have that great of stories.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's where we're kind of at, though, right? Like, everyone's kind of likable. There's not. The other question was, are we going to see cross checks called like we did? Are we going to see like a cross check called Blitz at the beginning next season? I don't think so.
Like with the what hooking. Penalty was it with hooking? Yeah.
Possible, but I don't think so. I think by then.
I don't think so either.
I feel like by the time next season rolls around, unless you're unless like maybe I mean some people everyone's gonna remember that, especially depending on what the outcome is for Joe Pavelski, I think, going forward. But I think unless something is unless Joe Pavelski is far more seriously injured than the Sharks are leading on, I don't think so. I feel like by the time next season rolls around, it's so far in the rear view. People have moved on to the, what happened in round 4 at that point, right? Like people's attention spans are really, really short.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, yeah, I feel like that's the way it is. Like by that time, I feel like this is going to be a distant memory for most fans. So I don't foresee it. It could happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. Should the NHL consider having more players play with full cages? That's never going to happen. I understand, like, obviously, for safety issues. Look, players are dumb. Players didn't want to wear helmets. Players didn't want to wear, players don't want to wear visors. Players don't want to wear anything. Like, it seems like when it comes to safety, these guys are really, really stupid. So I think you need to leave it. Go ahead.
I think you need to leave it in the players' hands. Yeah. Like I don't think they should have had the mandatory visor rule, because I think it should be up to the player. And if the player wants to afford that risk of not wearing a visor, which I would never do, but that's the player's decision. If they think they play better without a visor and they're okay with making the risk, so long as there's no outside pressure from a team, for example, then let them do it. That's their choice.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to the fighting thing we were talking about before. Is like it's 2 consenting players.
Yeah, I feel like here's the other thing too, though. I feel like people like. I feel like from a marketing perspective, and I think that's why there was such a pushback on visors for a while too. People like faces. People like faces they can see on TV. Cages would obviously obscure that a lot more. And I feel like that's bad from a marketing perspective.
It seems very junior.
You grow out of your cage. I don't know. I mean, obviously, look at these guys are crazy. I mean, hell, at one point goalies didn't even wear freaking masks. Like these guys are stupid. Stupid crazy. I mean, obviously the technology has changed, and I don't need to be told what you can do with a 40 flex stick that you couldn't do with a wooden stick. I get all that. But at the same time, players are dumb, and they don't care about their safety. They care about what makes them perform the best, and obstructions to their vision generally don't help. You're seeing, I'm sure a lot of guys that are now currently playing with visors because they have no choice would absolutely take them off if they had a choice.
I agree.
It's just one of those things where I can't see it happening. And I think we've burned through all our questions.
Look at us.
Look at us go.
We're not even at 90 minutes.
Wow, that's good. The NHL should look after them. Problem is, yeah, I get it here. CT eventually kill the league. I'm not arguing. Listen. Visors are already mandatory in the CBA. They're not going away. They're the thing. Where are the beards? I cannot grow facial hair to save my life.
Yeah, same. It would just look creepy. Like imagine, like especially back when I had my long hair. Like take a picture of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. That's basically what I look like.
What will Vegas's third jersey be? Maybe a how-to on how to kill a penalty. Maybe some X's and O's that they can look down.
This way they can't forget.
Right. That they can just look down and they can realize where they're supposed to be on the penalty kill. Yeah, here's the problem, right? Being that they are so dumb, the NHL should look after them better. The problem is that the players have a say. The players they have to agree, right? Like this is the thing with this is the thing too. Like a lot of people are like, oh well, the NHL is going to change the rule because Vegas wants to change. Well, only if the majority of the board of governors agree with them, and then that goes to the competition committee, which is the players, and the players send it back to the league saying, yeah, this is cool. Like it's not like Gary Bettman's going to snap his finger and this is going to be a new rule, right? Like where we review things. So it has to go through a thing. And this is the problem with player safety, especially equipment. It has to go through various stages. It has to go through the board of governors, which is the owners. Then it has to go back to the PA, through the competition committee. Like, none of this is just boom, they're done. Yeah, even neck guards, players don't wear them because they don't look cool. Yeah, right. I mean, but the problem is the NHL does not have, I think a lot of people think the NHL has a lot more power to impose these things on the players than they do. They really don't. The players have a very powerful union, as we've saw with multiple lockouts. And yeah. So I mean, it's not as simple as Gary Bettman just snapping his fingers saying players are all wearing cages now. It's just, there's a lot of crap it has to go through. A lot of, some things have come down to collective bargaining. Into the CBA. Some of these things are just things that the players, I mean, obviously it's all set by the CBA, but the players have a big say in.
Did you see the clown suit thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also saw the Seattle Emerald Knights, which I think would be amazing.
I thought that was an interesting point that, Hannah, you guys are talking in the chat too quick. I had to keep scrolling up.
Yeah.
Shoot. Someone brought up, it's like, how much of an afterthought will Vegas be once Seattle enters the league? And I mean, I think you lose the narrative of here's the expansion team, because now you got a newer expansion team. It's like being the youngest kid, and then your parents, have another kid. Now you're the middle child. It's like, well, who cares? You're just a person.
I think in our fan base, unless if Seattle comes in and curb stomps us in their first blast series we play against them, I don't think the narrative changes, because again, there's so much vitriol between our fan base and theirs right now.
That goes so much more beyond the expansion, though, I think.
Yeah, there's more to it than that, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I don't think Seattle's gonna do what Vegas did, to be completely honest.
Because I don't think GMs will be as stupid as they were.
Exactly, and that's the point.
Have our top line.
I wrote a massive article about this once upon a time. How it's not you can blame Bettman all you want for what the Vegas got, but you have to blame the GMs that overthought the system and gave up good players to not lose players, like Minnesota. We don't want to lose Matt Dumba, so here's Alex Tuch.
Mm-hmm. We don't want to lose Josh Anderson. Here's William Karlsson. I think that Seattle, I think in this situation, teams are just going to be like, they're just going to end up with a Matt Dumba instead of a King's Ransom, so that the other team keeps Matt Dumba. Just using Matt Dumba as an example, I think Seattle, I don't think they're going to come out of the gate as hard as Vegas. I think, and too, you got to remember with Vegas, I mean, the chaos factor, right? I mean, Vegas really came into the league, that season started at the perfect time for that city, because that city needed something desperately to rally around, to unite behind. And that was the Vegas Golden Knights. And sometimes, an awful situation, I'm not advocating Seattle have an atrocious mass shooting before their season to replicate what Vegas did. And I'm not saying that Vegas can't do what they do if a bunch of people don't die, because that's really stupid. But this is the world we live in. This is what happened. You have your narrative immediately.
Yeah, you have your narrative. And I mean, you probably, I would have to imagine you'd have to feel that being in the city and having that, being able to write that story. And, I think that when you're playing for something like that so early in the season, it helps. Because let's be honest, the early season, no one gives a crap. Right. So I'm just saying, when you look at Vegas was kind of this lightning in a bottle perfect storm that I don't think we're ever going to see again. I think Seattle will be okay, but they're not going to be. Look at a lot of teams in the Pacific. Yes, there's some teams on the downslip, as they always are, but there's a lot of teams on the rise too. Vancouver, I don't think is going to be a joke for too much longer. Edmonton, who knows, right? Edmonton
might be a joke for a while.
Edmonton might be a joke for a while, but they still have the best player in the freaking world, as far as I'm concerned, with all due respects to Sidney Crosby. The Coyotes might finally figure, there's a lot of, the Pacific kind of Vegas came into the league at a good time too, man. Pacific was on a downswing. You know, the California Gauntlet was no longer this feared thing where you just got killed for 3 games straight and you went home sad. Yeah, I mean, so I think that Seattle, I don't know if they're going to have all the elements to catch lightning in a bottle as Vegas does. You know, and Vegas is going to be in the headlines, Seattle expansion draft, because they're expansion draft exempt. But we knew that going in. Like that was this isn't like something they just added. Like no one saw Vegas being this good. Look, when Vegas's roster came out, I don't remember who was on the show, but most of us kind of just giggled and said, okay, well, enjoy being 7th.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to be better than Vancouver? Good for you.
Mm-hmm. Like that on paper, that lineup, even to this day, on paper, that lineup is like, aside from Pacioretty and Stone, you're just like, what does this team have?
Work?
Yeah, why is this working?
So I think that I think that teams are going to be smarter. I don't think Seattle's going to fleece teams like Vegas did. So yeah, I think that, you know, so by the really long way around that question, is Seattle going to get the vitriol that Vegas got? I don't think so, because I don't think they're going to be as good out of the hop. I don't think they're going to be a Stanley Cup final team in their first year of existence, which obviously, but for me, again, like I go back to, if I'm the other GMs in the league or the other owners in the league, I'm not mad at Gary Bettman. I'm not mad at myself because I voted to, you know, for the expansion rules. I'm mad at my GM because my GM has probably been there anywhere from, you know, a million years to a couple years. And why is my team this bad when this team was able to come in and do this?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm mad at. I'm mad at the GM.
With parts other teams didn't want.
Right. With you took their 8th best player in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Coyotes relocating? Who knows? They could happen tomorrow. Like, look how fast Atlanta happened.
They're relocating every year.
Right. I you know what? Until they do, I think that they're penciled in Houston, but until they can't get, you know, unless they can't get an arena built in Glendale, you know, and they decide they don't want to deal with Glendale on Glendale's terms for once, I don't know. Until they actually move, though, but it could be as fast. Like, look how fast Atlanta left. Atlanta was just gone. Mm-hmm. One day it's like they're a team, next day they're gone.
Next day, hey, Winnipeg.
So, I mean, it could happen. I'm not holding my breath. Gary Bettman does not like relocating teams, period.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think the Sharks? I don't care. It's so far away.
What do you think the Sharks what? Oh.
Who will they give up in the expansion? I don't know.
Oh, I haven't even considered that yet.
Yeah, there's so many roster things that could happen.
I don't even know if like Pavelski's going to be on this team next year. Like, we got to figure that part out first.
Right. Yeah. And then they don't have any more move clauses, so they could really throw anyone on there. They could throw Brent Burns on there if they really wanted to.
I think that is something that the expansion draft did do was, I'm not going to be giving out no movement clauses because that bit a lot of teams, you know, right in the ass.
Yeah. Seattle starts 2021. Anyway, but we're kind of just rambling now, so I'm gonna get this wrapped up. Obviously, appreciate everyone for watching. I think that, you know, again, we'll see what happens to the Coyotes. I'm done speculating on the Coyotes. I feel bad for, you know, they may not have the biggest fan base in the league, but there are some really, really passionate Coyotes people that I follow, and I feel bad for them that this is the constant cloud hanging over their team. And I give them all the credit in the world for sticking by, because honestly, the way I feel about relocation, if the Sharks are relocated tomorrow, I am not beholden to the team they become. Like, at that point, for me, it's jump ball. Maybe I still like them, maybe I don't. You know, once you relocate the team in, that's it. It's jump ball. I feel like I'm a free agent at that point. You broke your contract with me by becoming another team. I get to choose what happens next.
It's unfortunate for the Coyotes too, because for so long, me and Hockey Jerv have been really high on them with how much young talent they had, and it just hasn't panned out yet. And I'm hoping that it does soon. We saw some glimpses that it could this year. And then unfortunately, you know, you have that Strome trade, which, I mean, I think Strome only gets better because he plays it to Brinkett, but it's kind of hard to be like, oh, well, Strome did that in Chicago.
Right. Well, I mean, it's hard though, but too, like the Coyotes, you look at the Coyotes, I don't know why I'm still talking about Coyotes, but you look at the Coyotes and the adversity, like I don't remember who got up for the Jack Adams, but if Tocchet isn't up for the Jack Adams, that's a freaking crime.
I had to look. I haven't seen who's up for the Jack Adams.
It's a crime, plain and simple. Like, because the adversity that team went through to get as close as they did, considering injuries and everything else, like that team went through a lot. And I still think that team is better than its record indicates. Yeah, better stay the Sharks. Like, I'm not going to lie, man. If it wasn't for a teal jersey and a shark biting a hockey stick, I don't know if I'm a Sharks fan today. Right? Like, maybe they're the Blades or something stupid like they're supposed to be. And I'm like, meh. And then I'm a Tampa Bay Lightning fan instead. Like, I who knows? But anyway, Drew, final thoughts. We got to get out of here. I'm losing my voice. This isn't good.
Well, thank you all for watching. This has been a fantastic playoff so far. We'll just see what unfolds from here. I don't know if anything will get better than that first round, but you never know. Maybe there's some more major upsets, although I hope there aren't, because that would mean the Sharks are probably on the bad side of that upset. But yeah.
All right, guys. I am Ian. You can find me on the Twitter machine at IanBlogsHockey. I keep debating whether I'm going to change it, and I think I'm just going to keep it because I don't really write anything anymore. No time. Enjoy the ride now, guys. I mean, after that Vegas series, I think the most important thing right now is to enjoy the ride, because I think a lot of us didn't think we would still be talking about the Sharks at this point. I'm excited. I'm as excited for Sharks hockey as I think I've been in a long time. And I think that's a great place to be, even if I don't yet hate the Avalanche. So we'll be here. We'll be back next week, I'm sure, provided, they don't have back-to-back games or some stupid stuff. I will lick all my bobbleheads if the Sharks make the Western Conference Finals. Bank on it. It'll be some really, really boring YouTube, but I will do it for you.
I mean, it is YouTube.
Maybe I'll make my own. It'll probably be like a solo video where I don't have to talk. I can just lick bobbleheads the whole time, and then I don't have to talk, and I don't get lost in thought for minutes at a time. And I don't know. I keep debating because I like kind of doing those little things because usually I have the time to do a quick hit, and I think it's nice to keep that out there. But I don't know. You guys got to give me some feedback here, because I generally come away sort of circus music over it. Yeah, absolutely. How hard would I celebrate at the Sharks win the Cup? My greatest fear is that the Sharks are going to win the Cup and I'm going to be at work. That is my greatest fear in life right now, is I'm going to miss it live because I will be at work and I will cry. That is my greatest fear right now. Yes. For pause, I posted, go on my Instagram. There's kids' pictures. So there you go. Yes. That is my greatest fear in life. And it's become really more apparent now that they got past Vegas. I don't think there's anything that can stop this team except for maybe the Bruins. Okay. That's it. I am leaving. My voice is almost gone. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. Give me some feedback on the solo stuff, though. I would really love constructive feedback. Yes, I know you love me. That's great. But I need more than that. I'd like some real, actual constructive feedback on the solo stuff. Have a good night, guys. See you later.